Picture this, it's 1683, and the fate of an entire continent is hanging by a thread. It's all coming down to a single day. At the gates of Vienna, two massive empires are about to collide in a battle that will echo for centuries. It's a story of a brutal siege, unbelievable desperation, and one last all-or-nothing charge that would change absolutely everything.
I mean, just look at this. The sheer scale is absolutely breathtaking. This wasn't just a battle. It was a sea of humanity, a clash of civilizations right outside the walls of one of Europe's most vital cities. For 2 long, grueling months, Vienna had been squeezed, starved, and choked by a massive siege. And now, finally, the day of reckoning had arrived.
So you might be wondering, why all this fuss over one city? What made Vienna the flashpoint for such an epic, world-changing conflict? Well, it all comes down to a potent mix of geography, ambition, and a rivalry that had been brewing for centuries.
To really get it, you've got to look at the Ottoman Empire at the time. I mean, this was a global superpower, stretching across 3 continents. For them, taking Vienna wasn't just about bragging rights. It was a massive strategic prize. If you control Vienna, you control the Danube River, and that's the superhighway for trade and influence deep into the heart of Europe.
And the man leading this enormous army was Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha. For him, this wasn't just another campaign. It was deeply personal. You see, the Ottomans had tried to take Vienna before and failed, most famously back in 1529. Kara Mustafa was dead set on being the one to finally succeed where others hadn't.
Now, this wasn't a simple two-sided fight. On one side, you had the incredible military machine of the Ottoman Empire, and they had allies, like the Crimean Khanate. And they were also really smart about exploiting local conflicts, even backing Hungarian rebels who were against the Habsburgs. And on the other side, a coalition of European powers, mainly the Holy Roman Empire and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, who had to band together to try and stop this advance.
And yeah, this whole thing didn't just pop up overnight. Tensions had been simmering for years. Things really started to heat up with clashes in Hungary, which led to a formal declaration of war in 1682. That Treaty of Warsaw was absolutely crucial, a last-minute defensive pact signed just a few months before the massive Ottoman army showed up and surrounded Vienna. The stage was well and truly set.
Okay, so let's zoom in on the city itself. For 2 months, Vienna was completely cut off from the world, an island of defiance in a sea of enemies. It became a brutal, grueling fight for survival, a desperate race against time.
So inside the walls, the city had a professional garrison of just 15,000 soldiers, a pretty respectable force on its own.
But they were facing an army of roughly 150,000. The odds were just staggering. Think about it, 10 to 1. Can you imagine being a defender on those walls, looking out at that endless tide of soldiers? It must have felt completely impossible.
But here's the amazing part. They didn't break. In this incredible show of unity, 5,000 regular citizens joined the soldiers. Everyone, soldier, baker, blacksmith, grabbed whatever they could to defend their home, working day and night to patch up the city's old, crumbling fortifications. And the Ottoman approach? It was slow, methodical, and just absolutely terrifying. They dug this insane network of trenches, zigzagging their way closer and closer to the walls. Elite sappers were digging tunnels underneath the fortifications, packing them with gunpowder to literally blow holes in the defenses. And all the while, the noose was tightening, as the city was slowly, painfully starved.
And if you want to know just how bad things got, this order from the city's commander, Count Starhemberg, says it all. Exhaustion was as deadly an enemy as the army outside. With food almost gone and the walls literally crumbling around them, the defenders were at their absolute breaking point.
But just when all hope seemed lost, a lifeline appeared on the horizon. Far beyond the siege lines, a massive, multinational army was on the move, marching as fast as they could to save Vienna. A king's alliance was about to enter the fray.
And this is the man they put in charge. King John III Sobieski of Poland. You have to understand, this guy was a military rock star in the 17th century. He was famous across the continent for his skills as a commander, especially in fighting the Ottomans. He was exactly the leader this desperate alliance needed.
And the army he was leading, it was incredible. This wasn't just one nation's force. It was a true coalition. We're talking about 70,000 troops in total. Germans, Austrians, Poles, you name it. all marching together with one single purpose: break the siege and save Vienna.
Which brings us to the main event, September 12th. The relief army has arrived. The day has come. The fate of the city, the siege, and maybe even the continent is about to be decided in one colossal, final battle.
Now, in any battle, terrain is key, and this was no exception. The Holy League had the high ground. They were advancing from the Kahlenberg Heights, and from there they could see everything. The huge Ottoman camp sprawling below, the web of trenches, and of course, the battered city of Vienna itself holding its breath. What a stage for a battle.
The fighting started early and raged all day. In the morning, the German and Austrian forces crashed into the Ottoman lines, and it was just a brutal, grinding fight for hours. By the afternoon, the Polish infantry had managed to push deep into the Ottoman right flank. The Ottoman army was now pinned, caught between the Vienna garrison and the relief force. The moment was perfect for a final, decisive blow.
And that set the stage for something truly legendary. What happened next has gone down in the books as the largest cavalry charge in the history of warfare. Just try to picture this: King Sobieski himself, at the head of nearly 20,000 horsemen, a tidal wave of steel and horseflesh thundering down the hillsides, and leading the charge at the very tip of the spear were the legendary Polish Winged Hussars. These guys were the heavy cavalry, armored shock troops carrying massive lances designed to just obliterate anything in their path. Their charge was an unstoppable force of nature, and it smashed right into the heart of the exhausted Ottoman army. The lines broke, chaos erupted, and the will to fight just evaporated. The siege was over. So, the victory was absolute. But the story doesn't end there. The impact of this day goes way beyond just relieving one city. This was a seismic shift, a profound turning point in European history. So that brings us to the big question, right? Why do we talk about this one battle so much? How could it literally alter the balance of power for centuries to come?
Well, the long-term consequences were just huge. First off, this defeat basically put a full stop to Ottoman expansion into the heart of Europe. It was their high watermark, and they'd never threaten the continent in the same way again. It also kicked off the 16-year Great Turkish War, which saw the Habsburgs reclaim huge amounts of territory, completely shifting the balance of power. And maybe most importantly, it showed that the divided powers of Europe could unite against a common threat and win.
So when we look back at this epic scene, we're seeing so much more than a battle. We're seeing the precise moment the tide turned, a single, bloody, and decisive day outside the walls of Vienna that halted the advance of an empire and set Europe on a brand new course.